Welcome to the Underdog Podcast. This is Meander with me on the most scuffed yet the only English podcast about BCS. With me is my special guest IMP Smerv.
Hello.
And let's just jump right into it as Impunity. So far you are 2-10. You did manage to beat Dewish Team twice, which is very good as beating Dewish Team is always the minimum. And what were your expectations during this split? Because I reckon that after the implosion of the Taiwanese roster, the situation had to be somewhat chaotic.
Coming in, didn't really had much expectations, honestly, for this split, especially because I think my team was formed at the last minute, literally, like 2 days before the deadline. So we didn't really have much expectations, especially coming in with like two were my previous teammates and two were like Malaysians, and especially for our top lane, I don't even know who he was before that. He was just like some random solo queue player, so didn't really had much expectations. But I mean, being able to win Dewish Team, I guess it's still the bare minimum, but maybe could have expected a little bit more from us. I didn't really expect a bit more from us, you know.
I mean, I guess that does explain much when it comes to, especially those first weeks of play. The team getting formed at last minute, you definitely didn't get to get that synergy really well early on. And I mean, who did you even scrim with? All honesty,
I mean, honestly, I think for like the first 3 weeks, I think we only scrimmed like one game or two games. Like both were like Vietnamese teams, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, like we only managed to get like 2 scrims, and like our mid laners in university, and like
I mean, that is
me
interesting
myself,
that you
yeah.
actually got Vietnamese teams to scrim against you. Like, those were first league teams or the academies?
The first league teams. I mean, I used to have a lot of contacts when it was like the 2021 split. We used to scrim like LJL, VCS teams, and some Korean academy teams and some China academy teams here and there. But because we don't have any Korean accounts issued to us this time, I mean, I think it was due to some PCS players flaming last year or something, so like they don't issue like Korean accounts anymore, so unable to be getting more quality scrims, I guess, because
you mean
teams only can scrim on the live server. Yeah.
You mean like people not getting accounts on the Korean server?
Yeah. So we are more limited to like being able to get like live server scrims. So because like those China and Korea academy teams only have Korean accounts to scrim on, then they don't have tournament realm servers to scrim.
Yeah, I guess that is a huge problem at this point. And I mean, when it comes to like playing in Korea, like playing in for example, like playing those official games, like in my opinion, like one of the biggest issues with your play like on stage was that you were really awful at just getting CS, and I just wanted to ask, like, West Point, the Filipino players, they had huge issues with ping when they were playing. Like, Raleigh is still playing, so he probably still has that issue with himself. So I'm going to ask you, did you actually have like high ping playing those official games, or was it something else that like influence this?
I think to start off with, it's playing from Singapore already have like a big disadvantage because we are playing on Korean servers itself. We are playing on like 100-ish, 110 ping for Korean live server. So to get even like good practice when I was playing like the initial split, we were playing on like 110 ping permanently to practice, and then like because the Singapore server is not very good, so to even get like decent practice we play on the Korean server. But then when we play like scrims and even on the competition itself, we are playing on like 70 to 80 ping. So I mean, in comparison to facing off those Taiwanese teams with playing on literally one ping, how I think we really lost one hand, facing up against such players. I mean, nonetheless, it's not saying it's a excuse, but I think it's something reasonable, like to be playing at 80 ping compared to like one ping. I think it gives us a big disadvantage already coming into the games.
Okay, I mean that does explain much, I guess. So, like, overall, like, I guess how other players were feeling about playing. Like you said that you didn't really have much expectations, but was someone like actually optimistic here, or were you like just winging it, so to speak?
I mean, when I first played in 2021, I think that then I had a lot of expectations, but I think coming in and experiencing the PCS itself, I mean, considering the whole, I believe esports it's pretty hard, I guess. I mean, knowing one's limits is also a good thing, for me especially. I think sometimes some players are chasing a certain dream that I think it's unrealistic. I mean, for me personally, I take this game as like a leisure. It's like a hobby. It's like something I've been playing for a long time, and being able to play it competitively, I think it's a blessing, I guess, and it's something that keeps the game fun. But I mean, coming into this split, I think realistically didn't have much expectation. It was just like a opportunity presented to me like 2 days before the deadline for the contract, and I just was thinking about like the nostalgic times with the boys, something like that. And I just like asked Blaze and Shara like maybe we can run it up one more time, for fun. Since as well the org wasn't like pressuring us to perform and stuff, like they just wanted us to keep the roster so that they can at least have the slot this split. So I think coming in without much pressure and expectations, I did have a good time, even though we didn't really have good results. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the last question about the Impunity roster would be like, how did you manage to contact Arashi and Felia? I'm guessing that given that you had these contacts from around the teams in Vietnam and LJL, like, I just wanted you to elaborate, like, how did you contact those two players?
I think immediately when I was approached by IMP staff to form the roster, like immediately, and I only had like 1-2 days, I immediately reached out to the old IMP squad, like Shara, Blaze,
Even Top King?
CY, CUH, yeah, even Top King, but Top King can't be contacted anymore. I think I have no idea where he went. I think he went back to Korea, but and I don't have his Korean number, so yeah.
Yeah, not
I
surprised.
didn't, yeah. But I was like thinking maybe we could just like go, like go back to the old days and have fun with friends, But yeah, I mean, so then CYH already transitioned into mobile gaming, I think, so he wasn't really interested. And then yeah, Top King wasn't available. So I think, I mean, I had was friends with Arashi when we went to SEA Games last year in Vietnam. So like,
Oh.
I mean, I've always been friends with him like in the game, but it was the first time seeing him in person. Like Vietnam when I went for the SEA Games. They were in Malaysia team, and I was like in the Singapore team. So yeah, we had some contact exchange there and stuff. So like I asked him if he was interested, and of course I think he was definitely interested. And the next task was to find a top lane, and then he recommended LJW, which was a solo queue player, I guess. Yeah. So, but I mean, I gave them a disclaimer before like the team was formed or anything. Like we probably won't have good results, but if they are still willing to join and play, I mean, they are welcome to, you know.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, do you think that with like enough time and like with enough thought put into it, do you think that a competitive Southeast Asian roster, like I guess super team, in sort of like can be put to be competitive? Like just in the league, like just achieving playoffs.
I think there was a time where maybe there was such, I mean, like I would say like a good enough team to contest like maybe top 3, maybe then in another world. I think it sounds realistic. I mean, I guess there was a point in time where I guess there were a lot of talented players in Singapore, Malaysia, all the Southeast Asia region as a whole, but I think the infrastructure and everything doesn't allow Singaporeans to excel well in esports. I mean, considering the fact that all males in Singapore have to serve a mandatory 2-year national service, which is like the army, which is already something that hinders a lot of like esports players in Singapore. I mean, in generally, like let's say you qualify for international. I mean, like I have cases where
I see that being a huge problem. Like in Korea, it is a huge problem for some players as well. Like so many players are trying to like get into Asian games or trying to get something like trying to somehow bypass getting into the army, like with a like for example with a green card or things like this. So
for sure.
Yeah, I can see that being a huge problem.
It is a huge problem for Singapore. I mean, for me personally, have experienced this where qualified for like a overseas event, and then 2 or 3 of my teammates can't go, and I have to use like subs because either one it's they are in the army and they can't leave the country, or 2 is, I mean, it's a stigma in Singapore where, I mean, it's an Asian parent kind of thing. It's like some parents like aren't very
I mean, those are the perks
about
of just
esports.
those are just the perks of playing like amateur.
Yeah, so that's for the amateur scene. So I believe like that is one thing that is really holding back the Southeast Asian scene, and the second thing is like we don't have the funds compared to like other regions, I guess. Like, I mean, come on, like we have like some random coach here and there, and then like
when you had like Yalen in 2021.
Yeah, and
I think he was French. Shiazuri was. I think he was Singaporean, at least.
Shia was a Singaporean coach. I mean, the thing was,
let's just omit that. Like, let's just talk about the.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's base it off just like the individual skill. I mean, just thinking about like individual skill. I mean, the funny part was we had a coach. He was called Vaini. I mean, like. The thing is, like, Singapore scene, there's not many coaches to even begin with. So, I mean, I randomly got this girl who, she was an analyst or something. I mean, like, obviously just amateur, you know, that I approached her to be our analyst, but in the end she became a coach. And then she wasn't able to cope with the pressure of being a coach, I mean. So she was like, either she quits the team or we find like a makeshift coach, and it was like 2-3 days before like we have to sign our contract and everything. Then I was like, okay, sure. Then we find Shah, and then after that that's how Shah came about. Then we realized like this guy doesn't even know what he's talking half the time, and yeah, so like we were just like kind of lost, I guess, and we were like the blind following the blind, you know.
I see them.
Yeah.
So let's just maybe transition into like the other bad team, which is the Dewish team. Like, there is basically when we are talking about this roster, you always have to like mention the core of Xiao2 and WSL. Like, what do you actually like think of these players overall? Maybe you can also like spill some things about them.
Yeah. I mean, I was just gonna add on like a fun fact was when Xia and Yellen was coaching,
Mm-hmm.
two non-Chinese speaking coaches. We had Epic and Moonblack, which were
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hong Kong players, right? So we were communicating in Chinese, and all our scrims we were communicating in Chinese, and our two coaches doesn't speak Chinese. So how is that even
Yeah.
like from a management point of view, like a thumbs up to like hire these coaches? Like I have no clue lah. So and half the time is like we players are just reviewing ourselves. So I mean I just
Yeah. I
think
mean,
it's
you
kinda
just had
badly
to wing it.
managed. Yeah, had to
Yeah.
wing it. I mean, I was like the translator for Top King and Blaze as well on the team, so it's like I have to do everything. And after that, we have to review games. I have to review it myself as well. So I think, yeah, I mean, just to add on a little bit. But yeah, I mean, thinking about like Dewish teams, I mean, I personally am surprised that some of these players are still hanging around like for like 2-3 years. I mean, when I first played like 2021, I think Cell 2 was on like Alpha or something. It's like
Yeah, like it
mid
was
lane
Alpha
jungler
that
or
like
something.
rebranded into
Yeah.
Hurricane
After,
that like
yeah, and then he
changed,
went on to
like
be a
it was
jungler. Then
acquired by
yeah,
Dewish Team, which
yeah.
I am still not sure whether it was like actually changing owners or a rebrand. Like I have no info about this, and I remain
yeah.
skeptical.
I mean, I don't want to say like. Obviously, disclaimer is like obviously I'm not the best player. I don't even think I'm like super good or anything.
Yeah,
I just enjoy the game. I have fun, but I mean to think that some players
like I think the general
on
consensus is that like Xiao2 is like absolutely sucks and is the worst player in the league. Like I don't think this is
yeah,
going to be like anything controversial.
definitely. It's not controversial, but I mean, obviously, just rumors I heard. I'm not gonna quote from who, but I just feel or from what I heard, it's I think they are playing the games just to match fix or something. I don't know. This is just rumors. I've
Okay, I
no
mean,
yeah yeah. So I mean,
cut it
if that
out,
is
cut it out.
actually yeah cut the tapes, but I mean, if that is really the truth, then I mean, then it makes sense. But I mean, if not, I have no clue what the fuck. Like, how are they still on the team? And like, I mean, just gonna be frank. It's just like, are you gonna like keep these players on your team as a organization? Or
I mean,
if it's
it
not
is
gonna, it's
definitely surprising that they are still playing.
yeah,
So like,
definitely for
I mean,
sure.
like, let's just, I guess, switch to another team, which I think that surprised like many people who actually watch PCS, like in Hellpix.
Mm-hmm.
Like they managed to do some incredible upsets in week 3 and week 4, like defeating Frank, who were like in week 3 they were still like actually like exploding. Their macro was bad. Like they essentially regressed a few years and their like old weaknesses started to show up, but still Havelblix managed to get it, which was still I think a surprise to many. And last week, week 4, they just suddenly beat BYG. Like BYG, who like 11-16 had his bad week, but like the point still stands. Like help picks are 5-7 with a streamer on the jungle. Like, what do you think about this whole Godtone situation as well? I guess.
I honestly think the top and mid and AD for their team it's actually pretty good. Honestly, like they are good players. I mean, not gonna lie, but I don't really like watch too many games these days. I mean, in fact, I don't even play League at all. So, I mean, to be able to say like I'm 100% sure they are like very good. it's not. But personally, from the few games, the few sample sizes that I've seen and playing against them personally, I think they are top jungle in the top mid and ADs really good players. I mean, I think having such a figure for like a team is also like somewhat funny. At the same time, I think it's also beneficial for the league. I mean, considering every time he's playing, I see a significant amount of increase in viewers for at least for the Taiwanese stream, and I think that's actually good exposure for the PCS as well. And yeah, hopefully it grows into something. I guess at least for the league. I mean, hopefully more funding and everything makes the league be able to grow, and do well internationally.
Yeah, I also think so. Like, I am very surprised at the glow up that Taco actually had this split. Like, previously he was showing some potential on like Pixelite Darius, on Pixelite Kale, which were those very fringe situations. But right now he is actually showing up big, like just straight off carrying some of those team fights along with Tidal, along with Adiox. And I mean, in my opinion, like I didn't see like any of the scrim data or anything, but in my opinion, like Adiox is kind of an Azir one trick once again, which isn't that big of a difference compared to Hongtu, which like played mainly Azir and Sylas as well. But I think that Adiox is still better, and it is definitely an improvement that did allow them to reach some of those wins. Like, yeah. So, yeah, I'm just going over my point. Like, I wonder what was their situation, whether they actually had a situation similar to yours, because, like, their performance in like initial leagues, like in week 1 and 2, like it was just night and day compared to what they were actually playing during these upsets on week 3 and week 4. Like,
I mean, ultimately, I will not be able to know like what's their team situation internally, but I mean, from the looks of it, they probably had a late roster start, so like they didn't get much scrims in. But I think looking at the team's growth, I think they have been practicing quite diligently, and it shows, like, I guess, when it comes to the team play and macro and everything, like as a team, and identifying that their jungler is not the strongest mechanically, so they put him on like Vi, Maokai, Sejuani. It's kind of easy champs, I guess, and he's still going to be impactful regardless in team fight. So being able to take down certain teams and certain games, it's quite respectable, I guess, from them.
Yeah, and I mean, like, as far as I know, like, Godtone was even supposed to play in spring, but due to some, like, this is a rumor that I heard, like, this is definitely not confirmed by me in any means, but I've heard that Godtone was supposed to play in spring, but PCS just denied him because he couldn't play when he had sponsorship deals. So I wonder whether this was also something that maybe determined when Godtone was allowed to simply play, like whether it was actually confirmed initially that Godtone was actually able to play from week 1. Yep. So moving on to like the other bottom 4 standing team right now, bottom 5, Westpoint Esports that changed their roster from majority Filipino to like mostly Taiwanese at this point after getting their spot just handed over from Sem9. And the Taiwanese players, like, unfortunately, like, were mostly an improvement. Like 665 is like in his perfect environment. It seems it's looking like he's looking really good. He's probably the biggest contender alongside Taco to the most improved player title. maybe aside from Tide as well, but I think that Tide was actually showing good performances last split as well. And I mean, overall, it doesn't seem like this team has like you can maybe say that Relia, due to his ping issues, he may be like the glaring weakness of that team. Maybe, I mean, no one had some like off and on games, but on his on games he looked good. But I think that this team can still surprise some of those better teams. Like, what do you actually think about this roster if you would have any input on them?
I mean, honestly, not much input about this place. I mean, I guess I would say like they are decent, I guess, but I guess it's for. I mean,
let's maybe not push it like this. Like, I'm just going to elaborate.
I think they are okay. Yeah.
Yeah. In my opinion, like this team has their star player right now in 665, and I think this is just a bookcase of a player that has potential, just being given every single bit amount of resources put into him, and him really succeeding, but also like not being enough to actually be good. Like West Point actually has some really good early games due to 665 spaffing and like just lanes not completely collapsing, but you definitely can see that they need to improve on their cohesion, on their team fighting, like all of that mid-late game macro things that you need to focus on. And if they actually like manage to improve on it, I can see them being a dangerous team, but not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, but not yet. I mean, I believe any team with a language barrier is not gonna do well. Especially since they basically can't communicate with their top. I'm not sure if he can speak Chinese or anything, but I'm assuming they speak Chinese like as a team. So I mean, and their coach used to be, I worked with him before. Their coach was for about 2022. I was like, for one split, I was like the coach for IMP as well. I was coaching alongside Jace, which is currently the West Point coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's quite a good coach, but I think end of the day, you only can work with like the resources you're given with. You only can achieve like that much. I mean, to put it bluntly, all the good players are already on a good Taiwanese team. So
yeah, okay.
This is probably just like those who can't get into the top few teams, I guess. So and hence the result shows. Yeah.
Okay, I would like to apologize to viewers that like sometimes the video was just frozen and that kind of stuff. Like there wasn't enough transitions. Like, just think this enough is difficult, and this is the most scuffed podcast about PCS, but the only. So make sure to maybe leave a subscribe, maybe leave a like, and definitely comment when we are about to do those power rankings, as we will transition to some of those better teams at this point, as we will just talk about Beyond Gaming and how they have looked so far, because in my opinion, Betty and Carries are obviously a huge change to this roster, but the fundamental weaknesses of Beyond Gaming haven't really changed that much, because 1116, or Maoan as some may remember his initial ID, he's still really inconsistent, which partially was one of the main factors when they were actually defeated by Hellpix, and Likai is kind of just mid when it comes to when he doesn't have resources. When he does have resources, he can be a very good top laner, but you really have to manage those resources when you have both Betty and Likai on your team. So, I mean, I guess like, given that you have played those two solo laners earlier in 2021, like, what do you actually think about Likai and 1116?
I think 1116 is a good player. I think certain games, especially like on the Nico and Annie, I think he's been doing quite well. I think maybe he's just trying some off-meta picks, like something that is not his playstyle. To, you know, it's like sometimes when your team is like very ahead, you can like pull out certain picks, and if you win, then when it comes to the playoffs, teams will be like afraid when it comes to the draft, like, oh, he can play these as
Beyond
well.
Gaming is indeed a team that really surprises people when it comes to playing those playoffs. Like last year, they just went from 6th to 4th.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So sometimes the coach will want to emphasize a different base style. So like at least when it comes to before the playoffs, certain teams will like look at their games and like, oh, they can play like these kind of comps as well. So we have to be afraid as well. So when it comes to drafting, they have to be more careful. But I think with like showing that he can't play certain champs well enough. I mean, especially for now. So maybe they still have to go towards their one style that maybe like something like an engaged mid. I mean, I think he does pretty well when it comes to starting a team fight and initiating. So things like Annie and stuff, he's been doing quite well. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, the one thing which was surprising to me, with all honesty, was that like Conqueways Viego after 3 splits, it's actually started to work, which in J team and in the initial split, like it hadn't really given them those benefits. Like Conqueway is obviously a carry jungler player, and all those carry junglers can be very good, but only now it seems that the meta has like slightly shifted towards him with that Viego, and
yeah. I mean, I think Kongyo is a good player. I mean, just maybe sometimes against certain teams he plays a little bit too confidently, but I think when he plays like carefully and when he plays the meta junglers, he does really well. I mean, maybe against like
his
the
previous
game
splits, he had like very good carry Wukong games, which like was basically the domain of most of the carry junglers in spring, and now it seems like he is the one that is like the best of playing the niche that is Viego right now. And overall, like maybe just closing in on that roster, like what do you think about Betty and Keris, like just having that possibly like one stage game versus them? What did you felt when you actually played against them? Because they have been getting some very nice solo kills, but their laning stats actually possibly maybe not as dominant as you would think.
Likai or
Betty and Keres.
I think Betty is obviously a good player. I mean, considering his experience and everything. Keres, I think he's also a good player. I mean, funny thing, it was like I think last year we wanted to, when I was like a assistant coach for the team, I wanted to sign him as a support as well, but I think the talks didn't go through, So I think he's a player with like a lot of potential, and I think it's been showing recently. Like I think he's been carrying some team fights as well on his support. But I think he still has a lot of room to grow, and I think he'll slowly improve and do well in future. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess we are going to transition into the next team, which is going to be PSG, and PSG is one of the teams that actually changed the. You can say that, like, it actually changed the least. Like, they brought in Maple. Maple is obviously a great mid laner, but apart from that, they slightly changed their playstyle, kind of departing from Jinjia, just kind of smurfing all over the league, and now when he's on more of those tank junglers, PSG had tried looking towards top lane to give them resources, playing towards bot lane at times, and overall just playing way more safe, just coming back to that, you could say, old reliable way of PSG playstyle, which was just a very reactive playstyle, just very calm early game, somewhat cold mid game, just playing for those objectives.
I mean, Jinja is always been a very good jungler. I mean, I think he has hit rank 1 in Korea server before, if I'm not wrong, when he was in the EDG.
Yeah, he was a sub in
Yeah.
EDG. He actually played some of those games, and
Yeah, I mean, that's why, I mean, he was rank 1 on the Korean server for a period of time. So, I think considering all that, I think, yeah, he's definitely gonna be smurfing in this league. I mean, where I think maybe half of the players in the league, or maybe even 3/4 of the league. Okay, maybe at least half, I think, have not hit Challenger in Korea server. So I mean, for him to be like rank 1, I mean, he's definitely overqualified, and I mean, he's literally on the team who was worse as well. So I believe the experience he have, added on with like the laners he have, like in Atsu, Maple, Wako, and everybody, I think they are a team that probably won't really lose.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like, my general conclusion is, like, Junjie is obviously still one of the best junglers in the league, but right now when he is playing those frontliners, it doesn't really seem like he is just simply not smurfing, and this alone is just a downgrade from what he played in spring. But I think that seeing his performance on MSI, this is maybe a better move to just maybe broaden the play styles and just.
I think it's also partly because like now the meta of junglers is more favored to, especially like in the PCS region. I think they love like Sejuani and Maokai a lot. So
I mean,
it's like,
they
it's more of
obviously
like-
love
it's
Sejuani
more
because
of
they
like-
love Renekton, am I right?
Sejuani goes well with like Jax as well. So
Yeah.
it's like, and a lot of other champions, and the champ is quite thin without any damage items. I mean, it's also probably more like because of the meta where like on raid side you have to ban like LeBlanc, Nico automatically, and then the thing is like if it's open, you don't want like the opponent to have like Maokai, Vi, and like Sejuani, these kind of champions where it's pretty dumb to play. And I think you just like in the draft phase you have to remove it away from the opponent. So I think he's been picking these champs more of to like take away from the opponents, and at the same time, I mean, it's still a very impactful champion.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
just thinking he's just playing towards the meta and just showing that he's being able to play both tanks and carry, I guess. But I think when it comes to the carry jungle meta, I'm pretty sure he will carry really hard as well. Yeah, but I mean, considering the team he's in, he don't feel like he needs to 1v9, so I think probably he's just playing whatever the team needs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, like, from your experience, do you feel like this split, like, PSG is like, it's just is it unkillable, or are some teams actually like able to make them mortals, so to say?
I mean, looking at their team currently, I think when it comes to the playoffs, I don't think any team can really contest them. Maybe only like BYG, but I think even then, like in terms of like the top lane, I think Atsu has like a bigger advantage and jungle as well. So I'm quite sure that PSG will probably win PCS. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, certainly they are the favorites, given like they just defeated BYG. In my opinion, they defeated BYG on 11-16's worst weeks, but I do agree that so far the only team that can contest them is BYG, and I would also say that maybe J Team is there, but I am a known Bruce hater, so I will just step back on that claim, so to say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, for bot lane, probably PSG's bot lane also has a big advantage over J Team. So yeah.
yeah. I mean, we will talk about that when we actually get to J Team in a minute, but I would also like to move over that one point, like Maple, apart from that one game in this week, like he actually showed some very nice performance just playing a low economy, and this was something that I didn't expect from the player of that caliber, and this was definitely something nice to see from him. But now transitioning to J Team, like we did mention like the bot lane being kind of not the strongest point there, and I would actually like to get your input on Enzo, as I think it was a year and a half ago he was actually marked as the first all-pro support, but right now it doesn't really seem like he is on that form when he can be actually compared to people like Xiaoxi and Kaiwing, and I would like to like maybe get some confirmation or a counter arguments from you. Like, what do you feel about Enzo in the split? Like compared to
Enzo
like
used to be a jungler, right? So I
yeah,
think looking at the performance from him, I mean, and personally facing them and before, I definitely think that Chelsea and Woody is like uh, one of the better supports, and Kaiwing as well. But I think Kaiwing's strength is more on his roams and shot calling. But I think in terms of like mechanically and team fighting, I think Chelsea and Woody is probably for me like the top two, and maybe third will be like Kaiwing, and followed by like Karis and Kaiwing probably, and so it's like fifth or sixth. So I don't think I rate him that high compared to the rest of like the supports that I think I look up to.
yeah, okay. And I mean about the solo lanes, like I will just put down this thesis. Like I think that both Driver and Minji so far have looked like the best players in their roles respectively, but it doesn't feel like J Team is actually able to just get those moments when like I don't think their macro is good enough to actually enable those players to maybe win those team fights. Maybe it's the macro, maybe it's just the team fighting sense, but overall it kind of seems like a shame that those two extremely good players do not get as many wins as you may expect. Right now they are, let me look this up actually, they should be, I think, yeah, they are actually 10-2. I did think they lost more games, but they are actually 10-2. So I mean, they are second behind PSG. They are yet to play PSG. So yeah, I actually stand corrected on this one. But overall, like, what do you think about those two solo laners in Driver and in Minji? Like, are they actually the best, or do you think that players like maybe Aje, like Rest, or like Maple are just a little bit higher than them?
I think for top lane, maybe I think Rest is very strong in his laning. But I think Azi and Driver is also very up there. I mean, I think they are all three contesting for the first spot, but I'm not entirely sure like who is the best top. I mean, obviously I don't play top lane and I don't look at it too much, but I mean, based on like history, I think Rest is a very strong or maybe the best top laner. Yeah, but I mean, currently I look at Driver, I think he's doing pretty well as well, and yeah, and Driver is also one of the top contenders for top. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I guess like
Archer is also a very good player, but
yeah.
I think he's more of like a consistent player. I would say like he won't lose the game for you guys, but
I mean, he also had like
won't
one
really
on
carry,
one or
yeah.
two like very good carry games on, I think, Gnar and one on Jax. But yeah, overall,
Yeah.
I would definitely say that he has so far been a very consistent player when it comes to playing on this
Yeah,
split.
that's the thing. For his team, I think he just needs to be consistent, and I think they will out macro most of the teams. So, I think he's a really good fit for PSG. And I mean, in terms of like who is the best top laner, I think these three are like the top contenders for top lane. Yeah, the rest
Yeah.
I think is just I don't think they stand a chance against these three.
Yeah, one thing I would maybe also ask about Aje is like, do you think that like he's obviously consistent, but is he actually like that good that he will be able to hold his own on those versus those international players? Like even versus players like maybe like you probably watched MSI and Worlds, I reckon. So maybe like versus players like Broken Blade, for example. Do you think he is enough?
Yeah, I think he stands a good chance against the top teams. I
Okay,
mean,
okay. I think
maybe
that's
not
enough.
like LPL, but maybe like LEC, LCS. I think he can stand up or maybe even win them. But I mean, against like LCK, LPL, that one I'm not too sure. Yeah. Hello.
Okay, give me a second.
Oh yeah. I think it is connected.
Yeah, all right. So like it seems like we won't really have much to talk about in J Team. Like we can maybe touch on Lava as like he is that veteran player that seems to be very smart about the game, but my opinion is that he is just not good mechanically. Like, would you just agree on that, and we may quickly transition into the next team?
Yeah.
So I guess you agree. Okay. Yeah. So next up we will actually have CFO, and like coming back to the discussion about mid laners, Jimin is actually very dominant when it comes to those stats for mid laners. I will show this up in the material right now when it actually loads. Like he is he actually somewhat fallen off right now. Like now he's 4th in DPM. He still has the biggest damage share across all of the mid laners. And when it comes to like getting CS, getting cold, he is somewhat at the top. When it comes to laning, I mean, actually he kind of fell off this week, but he is still above players like Maple and Menji. But like, let me just get to my point. Like in previous leagues especially, he looked extremely good stat-wise, but the problem was that I don't think he has that carry factor, so to speak. I just watch CFO's games, and the overall vibe that I'm getting is that Jimian is that really, like, he's an extremely consistent damage dealer, but he doesn't simply carry games. And I would wonder, like, how did you, like, what is your opinion on CFO as a whole, so to speak?
Honestly, I'm not sure about like CFO. Like, I always think like they are a good team and they are always able to get like. I mean, I for some reason always think they are they are contenders for top 3 or even top 2.
Yeah, like when you look
Looking
at
their
those
team,
names, like you kind of have to believe them, but right now in this split, I think that they are kind of looking towards a 4th place so far. Like, I don't think that they are better than J-Team and BYG, let alone PSG.
that's for sure. I mean, but I think it's you can't always like count them out because I think individually they are strong players, and they still have like a chance to always improve by the time it comes to playoff, because I think ultimately the regular season isn't like a full statement of like what a team has or what a team can do. But I think like because they have a new addition in Chelsea, I think Chelsea is a player I used to look up a lot when he was playing in E-Stars.
Yeah, I mean,
And
he is, like, you said that previously, like, you think that Chelsea is pretty much alongside Woody. Those are those 2 best supports in the league right now.
Yeah, so I think basically he is a very good player. I mean, individually, I think all of them are good players, and I think they might be hiding what they really have till comes playoffs. I mean, obviously, not saying they are losing for fun, but I'm saying like they probably are able to improve.
Yeah,
enough.
I would definitely say that as long as they keep top 4, it isn't like really like big of a disaster. Like, top 2 is basically getting a bye, but top 4 is just getting to play those Osh teams, like the Oceanic teams, the Australian teams. And like, looking at the spring, they did feel like they are just a free win for those 3rd, 4th teams. So I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, the one thesis that I have actually thought about regards to CFO is like, are they just not improving as fast as the other teams, possibly?
I mean, you can't really tell whether a team is gonna improve come till playoff, because ultimately I think the meta is always changing. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I would say that
So,
Rest actually, like, I think that he didn't show some of those surprising picks that he used to sometimes show up, like the time he built Heartsteel Demonic Embrace Cannon or the AP Jax. So I definitely think that they are hiding something, but at the same time, I think that Shun has seen some stagnation in recent splits.
yeah, I think their weaker point in their team, for me, it's probably Shun, but then again, you can't really know. Like, I mean, sometimes some things is like everything you see from the outside, but
yeah,
you're not sure.
I understand that. Okay, so
what he provides to the team,
Okay, so that went quick, I guess, and I reckon that the next team will be quick as well, because it's going to be Deep Grass Gaming. And on that part, like, I would say that this team has slightly disappointed us in some of those games. Like, I would say that they... Oh, is it the correct video? Okay, welcome to the most scuffed podcast on YouTube. Anyway, okay, that turned off. So One thing that I would definitely mention is that DCG had those games where they were actually ahead of those higher placed teams. I think they had actually advantages over BYG and J Team, but they ultimately just somewhat at some point they just threw the game and they simply didn't get that win that could have placed them in the discussion around that top 3, top 4. And looking at Hanabi, looking at Kriskata, looking at Mission, I would say that Mission is still his good old self, but Hanabi especially, I don't think he is looking up to his even inconsistent standards, let alone his top form, which we could have seen, for example, the spring
Maybe
year
it's
ago.
because like it's just probably, I believe a lot of the times when some players look good is also because like their jungle is good and their mid is good, so like they get a lot of help and attention from like jungle and mid. So maybe on a different team now, it's just something that's affecting the way he play.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that is definitely a theory, I guess. I would say that definitely Hana is the weakest link of this team, maybe aside from Orca, but I'm not good at rating supports. That's why I will have you on the power rankings for supports. But overall, like, this team just it feels like it should work, but so far it just kind of didn't. That's what I'm kind of feeling about DCG so far. Yeah, and I mean, like, I guess you can just say something about Orca, because he has been the kind of player that I haven't been really able to like figure out, so to speak.
I mean, I haven't really seen enough of him to like actually make like a good like analysis of him. I mean, I just think it's something that's a player that is like doesn't really like surprise me or like give me the wow factor, you know, compared to like some of these players.
Yeah, so he's just like he's in the middle, I guess. Like,
Yeah, he's in the middle for sure.
Yeah, okay. And towards Kriskata, you could say that he was okay. I just tapped my microphone, but whatever. Kriskata was always that kind of player that was in the shadow of Shun, and with Shun playing somewhat worse, especially compared to his debut, Kriskata hasn't really stepped up, and maybe you need to start asking yourself whether you just need to let Kriskata go and actually try to contest more of those bigger talents. Like, for example, like right now he's on BYG's bench, but in my opinion, in spring, Feng actually showed some really nice promise, just playing multiple playstyles and looking relatively good.
Yeah, for sure. I think some players like even Husha is on the bench, right? I think like they can easily be in like a better team, you know.
Yeah, I guess that they definitely just wait for their contract to expire to get on those better teams. Like, yeah, people like Atlan, definitely, who is in theory contracted to Impunity. But,
yeah,
I mean, I
the
reckon
funny
that
thing
you
is-
didn't have any contact with him.
Yeah. I mean, he's not. I mean, I think he's on the team, but I never even
He
talked to him
is
before.
theoretically on the team. According
Yeah.
to like all official info, he is on the team.
Yeah,
but
but
I
I
mean-
don't think he's getting a salary or anything from IMPlosion, so
Yeah, but I mean,
But they
if
will
he
definitely
was,
have
if he had contact with you, he would definitely, like, we would definitely see him play.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry to Blaze, I guess. But yeah.
That's 100%.
Okay. So I guess that's all about Deep Cross for now, as we will transition to Frankie Sports. And Frankie Sports before and after week 4, I think is just a completely different story, in my opinion. Like, what would you say about this? Like, looking towards the Frank that actually managed to upset CFO this week, and between Frankie Sports that lost to Hellpix, I think there is a big change in how they played. Like,
I think Frank Esports is definitely players with like individual skill, and I think it's all dependent on whether like Kaiwing is performing like overperforming that day or anything, because like I believe like how their team do well is like basically when Kaiwing is on form and roaming and like shot calling well, I assume. I mean, looking at their voice comms and everything, I believe he's one of the main reasons why they are doing well when they are doing well. But when he is, I'll say, not being able to move and being proactive and doing the calls he can, I don't think they look very good, I guess.
yeah,
Especially so when they draft for bot side and when he has bot priority, I think that's when he really shines, I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't be that surprised, but like in that upset versus CFO, we've actually seen a little bit different of a scenario, because versus CFO, it was really just solo kill styling on rest in the Kisante versus Fiora matchup, and really just taking the matters into his own hands, which was really not seen previously when he was going for those hyper carry, like I would say those ego picks in terms of the Aurelia, in terms of Vladimir and now Fiora. It's actually the first game where he actually managed to carry. And yeah, I mean, maybe if Solo Killer will be actually able to replicate this further, maybe they will have more avenues to play with. But I definitely agree that when Kaiwing has his off day, it really seems to bounce on Frank's macro overall. Like, in some games we've actually seen some errors that were present before Kaiwing was in, and I think the like prime example on that was just Pretender getting caught over and over again in the laning phase, and especially on the side lane, which was something that we saw when Carries was on Frank, but not necessarily when Kaiwing was in. Yeah.
Yep.
And I guess like the other topic that we can definitely discuss is just Kenny-chan versus Hollow, the two junglers for Frank Esports. And when it comes to week 4, when Kenny-chan was actually subbed in back, he started playing Viego and he looked better than Hollow, but when he was playing on those on those frontliners, it didn't really seem like there was much of a difference. It definitely seems like Kenny-chan in those first weeks definitely suffered similarly to Junjia, just because of what was viable in the meta.
I think Kenny-chan is definitely the better player, I guess. Not saying that Hollow is maybe Kenny-chan is a better fit or.
I mean, I would say one thing about Hollow is that he always in the split has those one or two. Again. Oh, I got cut off. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean you're back now.
So yeah, basically like when Hollow plays, he almost always has like that one game in the split when he like suddenly finds the good path and he's like is actually incredibly good at the game, but otherwise not so much. And Kenny-chan definitely seems to be more consistent in that department.
I think sometimes it's not whether about the buffing. I believe sometimes it all comes to whether the jungle support and the jungle mid has good synergy. So ultimately, if Kenny Chan is being able to communicate and work well with the support at mid to provide vision and like moving the map, I think maybe that's another reason why he's doing well.
Yeah, maybe like when he was playing initially, like in those first weeks and in the Asian games, I would definitely say that he just simply wasn't active on the map in the early game, and maybe this was just a matter of synergy. I think that's a very good point.
Definitely, I mean for competitive gaming, I think vision and how you move the map together with your teammates, it's almost the reason how you can win games.
Yeah, okay. And I think that they still have room to improve there, because I definitely think that the loss versus PSG in this week was a matter of execution. So here's to hoping that Frank can continue this upwards trend and get better, I guess, as we are going to transition into power rankings in a minute, as I need to open them first. But yeah, there's the roster sheet that I was doing in the off season, and the power rankings are about to load in. Okay. Yeah, it's properly cut, so I will stream this to you as well. Oh, I forgot to mute, sorry for that, to the viewers. Yeah, and I would say that those are my power rankings. We can definitely shift some of those spots in the support role according to what you think about those players. Like, you definitely said that Woody deserves to be higher up there. I think that you will place Keres higher as well. So maybe like you can like get the comparison of like Xiaoxi being S minus, and maybe just get that as a benchmark towards the other players.
So you want me to rate like the supports first, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that you can just tell me like.
I think.
Yeah, would you can give me like from top down.
Definitely Woody and Chelsea. I think it's the better support. The rest, maybe Keres is probably behind a little bit, like third, and Kai Wing. I think they both share like third, but like first and second is probably, maybe for me, just a little bias, I guess. I think I like Chelsea a little bit more.
Okay, I would agree with that. Like, do we get Woody like into S minus? Like, I would explain that like S minus is just basically being like able to stand his own internationally. That's what I would say.
I think Woody definitely someone who can. I mean, it looks like from MSI he can do well.
Yeah, I mean,
but
I would beg to differ a little bit, but I mean, you are the guest, so like we will just give you the bigger weight, so to speak, on those rankings. So we will give Woody the S minus. And
yeah, but I think it's also because like him and Wako can do very well, I guess.
And I
together,
definitely think that this is going to be maybe surprising take for most of the people, but I think that Woody's meta is very rare to find, because I think he is actually a mage support player.
Yeah, I think he's a good enchanter support, and I think
like straight off mage support,
like,
not even enchanter. Like, I think he did perform the best when he was at the Heimer meta.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think he's a very mechanical player. I mean, I did when I was the coach, sort of the coach for IMP. We did try him out, and actually he was the first choice for support, and like it's like yeah. So like I mean, from when I was looking at how he played and seeing the way he played the lane and the out laning phase, I was quite impressed with what I saw from, and his communication is also very good.
Yeah, okay. When it comes to carries, like we've placed them above Skywing. I will place them both on A+, and because I think that Carrots is sometimes over eager on those engages when it comes to engaging team fights and like later on in the game past laning. But I definitely applaud his laning skills. He has been looking nice with Betty. Any more input towards that opinion, or are we maybe going to move past like the 5th and 6th where we have, for example, here we have Enso in the 5th and like Iceate on 6th. Then we have Orca, and then we have the other supports.
I think I will say Orca is above Iceate, definitely. Then the rest is more or less, yeah. Yeah, I'll put Orca on at least like a B+.
I mean, sure. We can prove Orca above Iceate. I mean, Iceate definitely, like, this B+ is, in my opinion, definitely a recency bias, because in the first week he has looked atrocious, even on some games, but now he has looked really good in those later weeks, but I definitely can see Orca being above Iceate. But I guess we can leave Enso like as the 5th support here. Yeah, and when it comes to like, we won't rank you actually like here, like let's just like, this is going to be a bias anyway if we are going to rank you, so
I'm probably like a C, bro.
well, I mean, let's just not talk. Let's just omit that and like.
No, I mean, I'm self-aware. I mean, I honestly haven't even been playing the game. I think I've played like 20 games in this year alone. So
I mean,
I think it's quite stupid to rank me anywhere else.
I'm just going to put you in on like C+ for the sake of it. Let's
Yeah,
just
sure.
say it, like still on the bottom, but yeah, maybe a little bit
sure.
too high. I didn't just say that. But when it comes to like, we can ignore Nesty because he played 3 games as a support, and I'm still wait for him to play more to actually rank him properly. But when it comes to like Enhoa, Cha, and the guy who had subbed you out, Felia. So this is Dewish support, this is West Point support, and this is the now playing Impunity support. Like, what would you think about them compared to Iceate?
Felia, I think Felia is a okay player. I mean, decent. I mean, honestly, because I have my own like work commitments, I don't have the time to really like play. So I mean, when I agreed to play for Impunity, I told them to. I personally found like Felia as a sub to ask him to come in when necessary if I'm unable to.
When you're
unable
play,
to
yeah?
keep up.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I'm currently busy with my like real life stuff. Like, I have a shop. Like, I'm opening a shop like next month, like in a couple of days. So
okay, nice.
yeah, so
I mean, good luck in that, I guess. But overall, like, would you put Felia both like those 2 supports, or?
I think they are just about similar, I guess. Same with Cha and How and everything. I don't think there's gonna be much of a difference. Like, I mean.
And are they like slightly worse than Orca and Iceate, or do we just move them down like half a tier as well?
I guess they are like, it's just the same lah. I mean, looks like just probably I don't think there's much of a change in the list, honestly.
Yeah, okay. And I would say like this would be all from my side. I would like to thank you for being the guest on this second episode. I really do appreciate that you actually agreed on that. Like, it was kind of I really did try kind of desperately to contact you on like multiple platforms, and I literally just made an Instagram account to try and contact you. So I do really appreciate that you accepted what was kind of a creepy approach, but
I mean,
yeah.
I don't think it's creepy. I mean, honestly, I remember you from like the streams and everything. So
Yeah,
I mean,
the good old 2021 Twitch impunity spam. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I don't
those
know
were
if
definitely the
like I remember
times.
you from my own personal stream or whatever, but I think I do see your name around, and I mean, I do appreciate like people who's helping the scene or whatever. I mean, and I'm always like down to help out, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much. I'm going to disconnect from the call at this point. Like, see you maybe possibly later, I guess. I'm also going to like invite you to a Discord when we talk about the stuff if you are interested later. But overall, like, see you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, bye. Okay, so continuing with the rest of the power rankings, I will just give out my justification towards those. Okay, the most scuffed podcast. Yeah, so anyway, driver, in my opinion, consistent, like that inconsistent note was towards rest. Driver is a consistent carry, he is a very good carry. He is indisputably, in my opinion, the best top laner here. Rest, his highs are definitely comparable to Driver. He has the upside of the at least speculative champion pool, or at least build pool, as so to speak. I think that Rest definitely can surprise us. Then we have Aje. Like, according to what Smerv was talking about, we can move him to S- here to make him more comparable to Rest, but I think that definitely you need to we need to be aware of that he has a lower floor than those two players and even solo kill, as I noted here, and I think that Junjia and Maple definitely are a huge benefit to him. Then we have solo kill. As you can see on this note, he was an A- B+ player before week 4. Now he has made a groundbreaking win, in my opinion, so he is back to where he was. But he is still not top 3. But I mean, he's not 7th. And then we have Taco. Taco, obviously a huge glow up in Hell picks. Likai, I've said this previously, like, he is very good when he has resources. And then without the resources, he's kind of meh. Hanabi, I mean, this is not in our meta. This is like, I've known that he has champion pool issues. He has champion pool issues. Like, he plays Nar, he plays Renekton, he plays Vladimir. He doesn't even play Jace right now, which is maybe kind of surprising, but kind of not. I just don't think it's his meta, and I don't think he is on his top form nonetheless. He actually looked pretty lackluster compared to, like, he has been on a downward trend pretty much since last summer, because in spring he definitely hard carried that split for PSG. Like, last year's spring was the best that Hanabi looked in a very long time, and now we have the lower part on this of the sinusoid that is like the sine wave that is Hanabi's performance. Then we have JP6, who I think he doesn't have, like, he isn't blundering laning phases as much as these lower two guys. Well, yeah, like, I give him the benefit of the doubt from the previous split. And the benefit of just the ping, and LJW I have him at C because he is consistently losing lanes, he consistently loses lanes on counter picks, and that is just not acceptable in my opinion. Then in jungle, we aren't going to rank Godtone. Godtone is always in our hearts, so I mean, let's just not blaspheme the name of Godtone by just giving him mortal ranks, I guess. Conqueror is going to be NS+. I think, like, I just don't think that current performances of Junji and Gemini are enough for international success, but maybe I am wrong. I did move pretty much all of this power ranking down half a tier, because that's what I think the current level of PCS actually looks like. So, like, previously we had Conqueror on S and Junji and Gemini on S-, like when I was editing that on week 2, on week 3 and on week 4. But overall, Junji, I mean, he's not looking good on frontliners. Gemini is incredibly stable, but I think he does look better on carry metas. Then we have Kenny-chan, who looked better on Viego. 665, who is looking extremely good. Maybe he is actually above Kenny-chan. I would say that he is above Kenny-chan in that department. Yeah, welcome to the most scuffed podcast in the PCS, but the only one. Then we have Lava, Hana, Hollow. I mean, Hollow may not even necessarily be here as he has been stopped, but like whatever. Lava and Hana, I mean, I just don't think they have the mechanics necessarily to be higher. Then we have Arashi and then we have WSL. I think those are somewhat self-explanatory. Arashi can have some good early games, but apart from that, he is not good. Simple as. I mean, this is just macro problems more often than not, and like coordination problems. And in mid lane, we have Menji. In my opinion, Menji has been looking awesome. Maple had his carry games in this week, so he is getting the benefit of the recency bias on this one. He's also on the S. Mission, Jimin, and Pretender haven't been able to carry games so far, so they are going to be on A+, no matter how good they are looking, and they have been looking okay. I mean, Pretender didn't really have good games so far, so maybe he did deserve an A, but I am biased towards the player, so it's going to remain. 11-16 is inconsistent. Nesty is not playing. Adiox is an Azir one-trick. On Azir he is A, or maybe he is A. Noli, not sure how to look at this player. I mean, he has a good lane, but I think that the champions he pick are kind of not letting him carry the games. Like, Ari is a champion that you need to be extremely good as a player to really get good performances. And then you have Shara, and then you have Xiaoto. I mean, I think Shara is a good player. I actually think that Shara is a good player, but they definitely have the problem of the ping, and Xiaoto is Xiaoto, like, he's the worst player in the league. On AD carry, we have... I don't think this really changed, except for Prage going very low, and Bruce getting a little bit higher, and Pepro getting down almost a full tier, to first of A tier, from A to B+. I think that Pepro wasn't as big of a effect, like he wasn't as a shining star in the darkness that was Dewish Team so far, but he still had some good games. And Bruce, I mean, with this kind of team it is really hard to not look past as an AD carry. So yeah, and then we have plays. This is going to be it for this podcast. I have been Meander. This has been the Underdog Podcast, and I will see you on the next episode after the end of the split, teasing the playoffs bracket. See you there.